One.
Coming to you from Freedom Land Studios in Texas. This is the Chuck and Z Show. And now, here's Chuck and Z.
Well, that's Matt. What up, everybody? Welcome to the Chuck and Z Show. Of course, I'm Chuck.
And I'm Z.
And there she is.
Hi.
And with us, we have producing tonight, Mr. Jake Swan. Son. It's funny because I have his name saved as Jake Swan, so I always forget to add this son to it for some reason. Yeah. What up, Jake? Thank you for producing once again, sir.
Of course.
Yeah.
And tonight we actually have I'm really excited to talk to Mr. Matt Van Buren, Ninja, right?
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's so nice. We met the other night at Bike Night, T-Bar Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, we definitely got to get him on the show.
I know.
Because,
right?
I mean, when we talk about the show, we always talk about how it's, you know, motorcycles, movies, mixed martial arts, music. And
yeah,
we have a guy who's both a biker and a mixed martial artist here. So I was like, that's a natural fit for the show. So thank you for
Two of
coming
my
on.
favorite things.
Hey.
So let's dive into it real quick. You know, former UFC fighter, you were on the Ultimate Fighter, one of the finalists on the Ultimate Fighter. You also fought for Bellator, several other events, and you were a champion of a couple. Would you kind of go through that a little bit so everybody kind of knows what your accolades are in the martial arts world?
Yeah, I won 4 amateur titles in different local promotion shows. I won WK North American title in 2007 Open MMA tournament. I had 4 fights at Bellator. Was a finalist on the Ultimate Fighter, the UFC 205 division. Frankie Edgar versus BJ Penn. And I've had 16 professional fights and 12 amateur fights.
Wow. And whenever we were talking the other day, I asked him because I have a limited background in martial arts. So I asked him, I was like, what got you into it? And he's like, where did you start? He goes, MMA. And I was like, it's funny because that wasn't, when I was a kid, that wasn't a thing. You could just go learn MMA. You had to start with one specific discipline.
Kickboxing or
Taekwondo. Or something like that. Wrestling.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu really wasn't a thing.
Aikido.
Well,
We were talking about your boy.
Before we started the show, we were talking about Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal with Aikido.
yeah, well, I should say I learned MMA, but it's still... We talked about like where I started fighting, even now still, just like Texas, like these areas like Virginia and North Texas, they're 15 years behind mixed martial arts compared to like South Florida or California, something like that. And so when I started training in Virginia, I trained mixed martial arts, but there's a difference between training boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and wrestling, and then training MMA. So while I trained all the mixed martial arts, but like having an MMA coach to blend it all together, to actually mold all those disciplines for mixed martial arts, that's a whole different martial art in and of itself. And I never had that till I moved to California, you know, so it was just like you're learning all these different martial arts and then trying to modify them to work for mixed martial arts because, you know, the footwork is different, the stance is different. You're constantly having to adjust your footwork, adjust your stance in a mixed martial arts fight in comparison to, you know, like how you would stand in a boxing or a Muay Thai fight because there's no threat of the takedown, right? So it's a different stance, it's a different... So
right.
It's that was kind of self-learned and taught through experience fighting until, you know, you actually had a real mixed martial arts coach.
Yeah, and the same thing with like jiu-jitsu and wrestling. There are certain positions you can get into where in wrestling or jiu-jitsu you're not worried about them kicking you in the face while you're on the ground. Whereas if you're in mixed martial arts, it is something that you can do. You have strikes that you can do from the ground because we see it all the time. You know, whenever someone goes from MMA and does Abu Dhabi or whatever, you can see that it's a different skill set because they can't punch. Like there are positions that they would normally maybe drop an elbow
Right.
or punch down and they can't do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen very, very good jiu-jitsu guys, high-level black belt guys get into mixed martial arts at the amateur level even, and fight guys that were maybe a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and couldn't pull off a submission against them, couldn't sweep them just because of the difference between the fighting. And you see a lot of people competing in mixed martial arts, and when they get in the ground and they end up on their back, they're in too much of a jiu-jitsu mindset, which, I mean, doesn't really work too well in MMA. You know, you got your shirt off, you're wet, slippery. People are throwing punches at you. It's very difficult to submit somebody in mixed martial arts, especially in a professional fight. And so I think a lot of people make the mistake of playing into a jiu-jitsu mindset in a mixed martial arts fight instead of a wrestling mindset where it's like you're on your fucking back, you got to get up.
Yeah.
Because guys will just lay on you and burn the clock. And even if it's not exciting, you're going to lose the fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So
Yeah, it's been fun for me watching mixed martial arts kind of take hold, because if you compare it to other sports, so you take football, you do see like different offenses, different evolutions in offense within football, but fundamentally it's basically all the same.
right.
Prior to the UFC, whenever I was growing up, we all argued, Taekwondo is better than Wateroo, or Ishinru is better than this, or whatever. It was all an argument, right? And then mixed martial arts came along, and we realized, oh, wait a minute, if you don't know how to fight on the ground, none of that matters. And that's kind of what we saw with jiu-jitsu. But then that evolved. Then it became, then the wrestlers kind of took over, right? Because then they would just throw these jiu-jitsu guys around. Once they learned how to stop them from getting their arm or getting their neck, then they would just beat the fool out of them on the ground, and ground and pound became like the thing that was most popular then. Then eventually it got to where, your takedown. When's the last time you see someone splash? I haven't seen someone, because whenever like they go for the takedown now, it's like a different way of avoiding it. But it used to be you would literally splash your body out, in order to stop them from getting to your legs.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You see that still in the
No,
UFC?
yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen it in a while. But anyways, my point is that eventually they get to where they stop you from taking them down. Now it's all back to striking again. Now if you're back, now you've got these high level strikers like Pierre, Israel, who's out there putting on what looks like a kickboxing clinic with very good takedown defense.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of strong wrestlers in the division right now for Pereira at 205. It's funny because they were talking about that the other day. Like, DC made a comment. He's like, I'm surprised that Pereira is as good as he is with how bad his wrestling is. You know? And so if like a guy like Jones or Cormier was competing against him, I mean,
he'd have some trouble.
I think Cormier would ragdoll Pereira pretty easily.
I would agree with that.
And Jones, I mean, he's in a league of his own. You know what I mean? He's just...
Dude, is there any argument that he's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time?
I think anybody that argues that is just pretty ignorant.
Yeah.
And borderline stupid.
I know.
That's just my opinion. It's when you talk fighting with people, like you realize real quick who's never stepped foot on a mat and who hasn't. Like the way people talk, and like when I read through comments and stuff on the internet, and like you still see these idiots like saying like talking about, I forget, I seen something the other day. Some guy was talking about like Conor McGregor fighting some guy that was like some other athlete, but the guy's like not a fighter, and they were trying to say that because the guy was big and strong, he could compete with Conor. And I'm like, you guys that say shit like that have never been on the mat with, like, you don't understand the power of mixed martial arts, and martial arts in general. Because if you had ever been on the mat with anybody good like that, you would never talk like that, because like the levels to it. You know what I mean? It's literally like an untrained man fighting somebody like, for example, with like my skill set in mixed martial arts. It's literally like the equivalent of like a 10-year-old child, like trying to fight his dad.
Right.
I mean, all you have to do. I mean,
respectfully. So that's just exactly what it is.
Well, you literally do it all day, every day. I mean, that's the point. Is like you the repetition that you get, the techniques that you get, you've literally trained your muscles for that very specific activity. I mean, one only has to watch Mighty Mouse choke this 6'5" guy out the other day. I mean, how many times have you seen these demonstrations where you get a 17-year-old female jiu-jitsu practitioner choking out a Marine or something? I mean, it's a common thing.
Yeah.
Well, this one thing I always explain to people too about fighting is people that, you know, untrained people that have never like never trained with like a good wrestler, right? Or a good boxer, a good jiu-jitsu guy. They don't understand that like me and you, or me and Jake, or whoever, like we could square up and there's a chance you guys could knock me out, right? It doesn't matter how small it is because you're a grown man. You know what I mean? You could hit me and knock me out. But what people don't understand is there's no such thing as a grappler's chance, right? It's like if I shoot a takedown on you or you shoot a takedown on me, there's no like puncher's chance. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, you might hit me with a hook and knock me out. It's like you're either better than me or you're not. There's no like if I take you down, there's no like it's not like you're gonna get lucky and get up or submit me,
Right?
or get me off you. There's no luck. It's you're either better or you're not. That's it.
Yeah, and that's what everybody realized whenever the UFC came out, because here I am watching people that I've read about in Black Belt magazine my whole life, these ninth dans, these high-end martial artists, and they're curling up like babies on the ground because for some reason it never crossed anyone's mind that 99% of fights end up on the ground, and 99.9% of people have no concept of what to do when they hit the ground.
Yeah.
They have no concept of it whatsoever. And you saw that right away because you saw these huge dudes. I didn't even understand it when I first saw it. Like when I saw it, I thought he was getting beat up.
Yeah.
It looked like he was getting beat up. It looked like these dudes were throwing hoists around.
Right.
We're talking about UFC 1, UFC 2, where Hoist Gracie was, 180 pounds, came in and just strangled everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. And he wasn't even the best one of the Gracies, apparently. He was, just the one that they thought would take the direction and do what they told him to do.
Well, actually, they specifically and strategically picked Hoist for that tournament. And do you know why they did that? There were, I forget the other brother, whoever's the other one's name that was going to pick. There was like two other ones, but those guys were more like a ripped, like more of a well-built physique.
More impressive looking.
Yeah, like more, they just had that physique, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Hoist was like a skinny, like non-muscular guy. He looked like a normal dude with sure if he didn't have any muscle definition, anything. And so they wanted Hoist to be the one to do it because they didn't want anybody to say, oh, well, Hickson did it because look, he's jacked or he's, he's built, whatever. So they specifically and strategically picked Hoist because he didn't have that physique. You know what I mean? They didn't want anybody to say like, oh, he's got big muscles or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I just remember, man, I had been doing Taekwondo and did a little bit of Wadaru at that point. And I just remember like everybody in the room was like, oh, well, I'd knee him in the face or I'd do this. And I'm like, I don't think I have any shot on this planet of surviving if someone knows a tenth of what that guy knows. And then you couldn't find it anywhere. Like it wasn't available. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina in 93.
Yeah.
No one's teaching jiu-jitsu. The best you're going to get is something like Hapkido by some random guy that teaches. There's a joint lock. There's a couple of joint locks in there.
Yeah.
But that was about it. But that's a long way to get back to, but you got to start just directly into MMA. And I think that's outside until that came along. The only other person I think in history that we know of that attempted to do what the UFC did, what the zeitgeist of mixed martial arts did, was Bruce Lee whenever he created Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
When he was trying to take what worked from all these different arts and put them together. But then nobody did it forever. And then next thing you know,
He never learned to wrestle though.
no, he didn't. He did. If you go back and look, he does have. You're right. Gene LaBelle apparently threw him around a lot. Apparently.
Yeah.
But if you go back and look at some of his old movies, there are jiu-jitsu moves in there. He has arm bars. He has joint locks in it.
Yeah.
And now he gets out of one by biting a guy. I'm sorry.
What?
That's cheating.
that guy's just going to snap your arm. I'm sorry.
Well, jiu-jitsu, the Brazilians actually learned jiu-jitsu. They call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but They actually learned jiu-jitsu from the Japanese.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the original Brazilians that learned Brazilian jiu-jitsu. They learned it from the Japanese. So it's a Japanese martial art. Now, they refined it and made it kind of better and more effective.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those submissions and stuff, they learned from the Japanese.
Yeah. Even though, again, I know that Bruce Lee, obviously everybody talks about Bruce Lee, and he's a 135-pound guy. And I mean, obviously the things he did in movies aren't all that great, but there are a lot of parallels with that, because what the Gracies did with their jiu-jitsu is they threw away everything that didn't work. All the tradition, all that stuff, just focused on what actually worked in a street fight, and that's what they kind of developed their martial art around. And that's kind of what Bruce Lee did and got in trouble for whenever he was teaching traditional martial arts outside of that approved world, I guess.
I know. I just wonder, like, if he was still alive, when MMA came around, like, how would he embrace it, right? Like, would he go for it and, like, kind of have his own kind of,
Would he be a hater?
Yeah, or would he be a hater?
like a Chuck Norris.
Right. Yeah.
Like, damn, this is real fighting now.
But hell, even Chuck eventually got his black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, he had to, but he had to understand it. But, I mean, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I mean, you have to understand, too, that's always a debate in the martial arts world, too. Like, there's a huge difference between gi jiu-jitsu and no gi jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I mean, over half the moves you do in gi jiu-jitsu don't work in no gi because there's no sleeve, there's no collar, there's no belt, there's no pant leg to grab. I mean, it's two totally different games, and I've known really, really good gi black belt jiu-jitsu guys that are terrible no gi because they never trained no gi. Mm-hmm. Just the same as I'm terrible in the gi because I never trained in the gi, but it wasn't practical for what I did, and it's not practical really for self-defense in the real world either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I got another question for you. I saw it on your cut when you came in, and obviously everybody knows your nickname is Gutter. I'm just curious where that came from.
So my Muay Thai coach gave that to me back when I was coming up fighting because I was like a street fighter kid, you know what I mean? And we used to listen to a lot of like Project Pat and 3-6 Mafia and shit back in the day, like we were fighting. Mm-hmm. And Project Pat would always talk about the gutter and stuff. And so it started as like it was this kind of like started as like an inside thing at the gym. We're like, my Muay Thai coach said, man, you gotta get fucking gutter on this dude. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get street on him, and then everybody just started calling me Gutter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just kind of stuck. So
That's a good one. You always wonder where their names come from. And
Yeah.
that's a good
Be a
one.
nickname.
Yeah. So, what do you ride, bro?
what do I ride?
Yeah.
Road King Classic.
Nice. How long you been riding?
I've been riding 11 years now. Yeah, I got my first motorcycle in 2013 when I lived in San Diego, California, and fell in love with it. Actually, funny story. So how I always wanted a bike, but I was a broke fighter back then, and I was working security part-time at Hard Rock Hotel in downtown San Diego. Mm-hmm. Like a couple nightclubs and stuff. So we used to do like events and nightclub stuff there. But I used to pay to have to pay to park downtown. It's fucking expensive.
Yeah.
But when you have a motorcycle in California, you can park in the meter parking in between the parallel, and it's free. You don't have to pay. And so I was a broke ass fighter, like I said, and I was like, man, I want to get a bike, but I really don't want to spend the money because I'm broke. But then I started running the math on it, and I'm like, man, with the amount of money that I save on parking and gas I started calculating how many days a week I work downtown. Like I literally paid for my bike, like the payment. I literally paid for the payment with the money that I saved in gas and parking. So I was like, I'm pretty much getting a free motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like girl math, So I was like, I'm pretty much getting a free motorcycle. So I went and bought a bike and my buddy that I used to train with, he had a bike too. And man, if you guys have never been to Southern California, we'll have to go out there and ride sometime. Oh man, there's some sick rides out there, like in the desert and in the mountains, and just some insane twisties. And we used to go out east, like just way out in the mountains. And it's like we would train, fight in the train in the morning, and then we get on bikes and just go ride all day, and then come back, train again at night, and just we did that for years. And so I fell in love with riding when I lived in California, and after I got my first bike, and it just
it's a different kind of riding, right?
Yeah, and so it's like now it's just a passion and addiction. I fucking love. I mean, there was a time in my life where I loved fighting more than riding, but now it's like
it's taking its place.
Yeah, it's over. You know what I mean? So now it's like riding is my real true passion now. I would say my favorite thing to do. Is nothing I'd rather do than just fucking go ride.
That's awesome. Do you get the because I know with fighting you're letting out your stress, and it's kind of like a therapy in a way. It could be.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Do you get that same feeling with riding motorcycles?
I do. Yeah, it's just you kind of forget about everything and just, you know what I mean? The open road and just go ride. And I got some Metallica on or Pantera or something. And, I'm just riding and, pull 110 across the Rockwall Bridge or something. It's awesome.
I saw that you're headed out to Arkansas in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Aren't you guys going too?
What's that? What are you riding?
Camp out. We're going to camp out.
Oklahoma. I thought it was Oklahoma.
Well, we're gonna ride in Arkansas.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a ride.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a
Check
ride.
those two rides off.
You guys are coming, right?
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
we're coming for sure.
Oh yeah,
we're all in
coming.
this together.
We're all in this together. I didn't realize we were headed out to Arkansas. That's cool.
Yeah. Telemina Scenic Highway, and
Hell yeah.
some guys know some. I know there's a lot of good rides in Arkansas. I haven't done them, but hopefully somebody's down and we can go rip around in Arkansas for the day, because I know there's some sweet rides besides Telemina.
I can't wait. We got to find some. You were talking about going to Dragon. That's actually from the Dragon right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we.
Is that close, Jake? Is that close to the Pigtail Trail?
So basically, the Talamina it goes from the town of Tallahena into Mena, Arkansas.
Okay.
And you basically just touch that bottom touch of Arkansas, and then you can actually come back down into Broken Bow, Oklahoma. Those are like the really good routes in the near vicinity. But straight north of there is the Pig Trail, and it's probably another 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because I need to find some roads because we were spoiled.
Northwest Arkansas is amazing.
I can't wait.
No traffic, and it's gorgeous.
I can't
Nice.
wait.
Yeah, it's
So,
like
yeah.
Benton, right? Benton, Arkansas, and Bentonville and stuff.
Yeah, Eureka Springs.
Yeah,
Fayetteville.
I ran some life insurance leads up there a couple years ago, and I was thinking, I was like,
Hold up. I just came off of your story from Alabama, which is crazy.
I was like, dude, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I remember like there's some sick roads, and I was like, man, I wish I had my fucking bike up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So,
It's
yeah.
probably it's probably the best kept secret of all of America's roads.
Okay.
Like the
That's
ones that are
exciting.
like the exciting that people don't talk about.
Right.
But we got a couple of things coming up, right? We have. Yeah, what we got coming up, Z?
We got Fast Life, so we're going to Oklahoma and Arkansas, guys. Apparently.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go to,
I lost it. Wait, what's wrong?
I lost it too.
Born Free.
Born Free.
We're going to be in the Southern California area. We'll be in the Silverado.
Sorry.
How much have you had to drink this evening?
I've only had one shot and a couple of sips of this, but we're good.
Okay.
I just
All right.
lost my train of
Yeah,
thought.
so we got.
I'm so excited
You want to take
for
a try?
Born
You want to try it
Free.
again? So we
Yes.
got coming up, Z.
Born Free, Southern California. Check us out.
Yeah, no, we got a lot of good campouts.
Have you been to
and
Born Free?
No, never heard of it.
This is the 15th year, and it's always like kind of near that Laguna Beach area, but up towards the mountains a little bit. And it's kind of like a chopper performance show.
Nice. When's that?
It's June,
End of June.
the end of June.
June.
Yeah.
I'm
They
going-
have a Born Free Texas now, which is, this is like what, the third year that they're doing
This will
it?
be the third. It's totally two different vibes. still both are great. Well, I've never been to the California one. This will be my first year too. But Texas is a great vibe, just different vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, you have to check it out.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to make it this year because I'm riding home. I'm leaving on the 18th. I'm riding home to Virginia
Oh, that's right. That's right.
on June 18th for my 20-year reunion. And then I'm going to Nashville the first day. And then I'm riding from Nashville through Dragon's Tail.
Right.
The Tail of the Dragon.
Yeah, Tail of the Dragon.
Everybody calls it Dragon's Tail. It's hilarious. It's like the
That's
movie.
good, that movie, Dragon's Tail.
Yeah, then I'm going from there to Virginia Beach. And then after the reunion, me and like 4 or 5 of my buddies, we're all riding to like Northwest Virginia. It's the Skyline Drive, scenic highway through Shenandoah Valley. It's like one of the most scenic motorcycle rides in the whole
Yeah.
country.
I've seen
We're
pictures.
gonna go ride that, and then my buddy's got his family's got a house on the West Virginia line. It's like super rural, like no cell service, nothing. And we're just gonna go rip through the mountains out there
That's the
in
best.
like West Virginia and western part of Virginia.
Yeah.
Have you already ridden like in the Smokies and all of that yet?
I don't think I have actually.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
You're gonna love
First
it.
time doing the Dragon's Tail, and I've been through Shenandoah, the Scenic Parkway.
Yeah.
My car, I've been up there hiking and stuff, but I just never been up there on the bike yet. So those will be 2 firsts for me. So
So you're gonna do the Tail of the Dragon and the Back of the Dragon? Where's the Back of the Dragon? Is it in that same area?
It's in Virginia.
Yeah.
But one thing that you may consider on your way to Nashville, it'll be a little bit out of the way, but the Natchez Trace Parkway or something like
Yes.
that. You basically, it takes you right into Nashville. But you like cut across Texas into Alabama.
Yes.
Is it Alabama or
Talladega.
Mississippi that it starts? I think it's either Mississippi or Alabama that it starts. And then you just take this, it's kind of like the Blue Ridge Parkway where like the max speed limit's like 30 or 40 miles an hour. So it's going to take you longer, but it's the same thing. It's a
gorgeous.
super scenic route.
Yeah. Yeah, the foothills, all that stuff up there is so pretty.
And it literally ends in Nashville.
what's it called?
I think it's Natchez
Trace. It
Natchez
is.
Trace Parkway.
Yeah.
Natchez Trace Parkway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it starts in
I'll have to look
Mississippi,
that up.
actually. I think that's because
Yeah.
Natchez, Mississippi.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The
if you-
riding over there, amazing.
Very
You're just sweepers and like all kind of turns and the mountains and the trees and the elevation.
If you hit the North Georgia area, hit Two Wheels such as Blood Mountain, Wolfpan Gap, those are all amazing roads as well.
We'll have to go out to Colorado. You guys ever ridden $1 Million Highway? Oh, it's sick.
No.
So that's another event that will end up being, it's a month after Sturgis, the Four Corners Rally. And apparently the owner is trying to get more performance scene there, wants us to go. And
September? Is it September?
I think it's like, I can't remember if it's early September or mid-September. But
Dude, I'm down.
you stay right there in Durango, ride the $1 Million Highway, and then, yeah, it's all right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a little cold that time of year. $1 Million Highway.
Yeah. It gets cool.
Shit, we
early.
went in August, yeah, and it was kind of cold in some parts.
Okay.
But,
Well, I mean,
because you're up there, you know.
yeah.
I mean, we came back, yeah.
I can't wait for Sturgis this year because last year we just got rained on most of the time. We
Yeah.
got almost no riding in.
Yeah, we were there. We got some decent days of riding in, but we got caught in the rain a bunch, and we rode probably fucking 230 miles in a downpour on the way up there, heading up there. Yeah, like downpour. We ran like 230 miles. Just yeah, it sucked.
That's not fun.
No.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't. It was super sketchy.
You get caught in it, right? And you're like, am I going to, survive to see the next day?
But those are the stories you talk about now.
I know.
Those will
Yeah.
make the best stories.
That's
they
true.
suck. They suck during it. But.
I was literally just like praying the whole time. I'm like, please don't crash.
Yeah.
It was sketchy. And then we were riding Needles Highway. You guys ridden Needles Highway, and it started fucking pouring on Needles Highway. And like you're going downhill, you know, and it's like the twisties downhill. And it was just like, man, it was super sketchy. A couple of times I thought I was going to my bike was just going to slide out.
Yeah.
Luckily
Yeah.
it didn't, but.
I think we got caught in the rain going back up to the house, which was kind of like in the mountain, like up a mountain. and my traction control was off. And so I'm just sliding up the mountain. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to drop this bike. And then Jake, we're in the cardos, and Jake was like, do you have your traction control on? I was like, I think so. And I hit the button. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. But I almost died, like white knuckling it up the mountain, you know, and just not wanting to die and kill everybody else behind you.
Well, in your defense, those bikes were almost just 4 or 5 months old at that point, and we took all the regular stuff off, so we have like the mono gauge on it, and it doesn't have an indicator to tell you whether or not your traction control is on or off. So if you hit it, you don't know you've cut it off.
Yeah.
But we're getting ready to fix that.
Yeah.
We got some really cool gauges that we got to get installed as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. But it's riding in the rain. Plus, it hurts. Like if you're going a certain speed, you know, just like pelting. Like it feels like rocks pelting at you. Yeah.
I got one of those black and silver Harley rain suits, and dude, that thing's legit.
Is it?
Yo, it's legit.
Keeps you dry.
Straight up.
And you ride naked, right? Like you don't have any type of fairing.
Unless I'm going on like a run, like out of town like that. So I actually threw the windshield on for the ride up to Sturgis, but I take it off when I get there. But I actually luckily had the windshield on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of windshield do you put on it?
Well, last year it was the classic, like the big ugly clear one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But since then I've gotten one of those Memphis shades, like club style fairings.
Yeah.
So I have like a club style fairing that I got painted to match the bike, and it's got like a little 9-inch windshield.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So I just snapped that on. So that's like just enough to where, like if you're riding all day, multiple days, it like kind of takes some of the bite off of takes some of the workout out of it. You know what I mean? You don't feel like you're holding on for dear life the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just like just enough. So I paid a lot of money for the fairing, got it painted, but I never use it hardly.
Yeah.
So
That's what
I'm a wind warrior. I don't like fixed fairing bikes. I don't like fairings. I like.
You like to feel the wind.
I like to feel it, and I like the little workout. You know what I mean?
It does give you a workout.
But yeah, for sure. But after, if you're riding like 600 plus miles multiple days in a row, then it starts like because when we rode to Sturgis last year, came back, it was like 10 days total. I did like 3,800 miles in 10 days. So when you're doing something like that and you don't have a windshield or a fairing, it's like after a couple of days, it starts to like kind of take the fun out of it. You know?
Yeah.
Then it's like more like work.
Yeah.
You know? Like I'll ride 800 miles in a day with no fairing or windshield, like no problem. But if it's like going to be multiple days that in a row, it just starts not to get as fun, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
those
are the situations I'll throw it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not big on not having a fairing. I hate fighting the wind, especially the way you and I ride.
Yeah. But we're like spoiled now because I rode a Sportster for 4 years with no windshield. Like I had a windshield on like maybe the last year.
Yeah,
I had the bike.
Year, yeah.
No, it was that little sporty windshield. Remember, it was like, it just came up like this.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
like tiny.
That's right. That little sport, yeah.
But now that when I got the Lowrider S, I had the Memphis Shades Club Style on there. And then from then on, I had just, the road glides with the fixed fairing. But now when I get on the Sportster, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm like getting blown away by the wind. I'm like, how do you guys do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because with our bikes being the way we built them, specifically for speed and all that stuff, I mean, it's good. Like at 100, getting the wind cut's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now,
also pretty cool riding at 100, 110 with no windshield.
Well, I mean, you're 6'5" and a ninja assassin, so
You're just cutting wind with your.
It's a little different than a 48-year-old
mean death grip
sales executive over here.
Yeah.
Got a mean death grip.
But that's actually something else I wanted to talk to you about because you mentioned getting into sales after fighting, and Z and I have been in sales our whole careers. But tell me kind of like what you transitioned into because you've got several little businesses that you're doing now. So what did you kind of transition into after fighting? You still teach, right?
Yeah, I still teach martial arts. Still a passion of mine, and I started originally high commission sales of life insurance. Run specifically, I did mortgage protection insurance for like the first 6 months, which is kind of people who buy like a new house. You're selling them basically like a term insurance to protect the mortgage. But then shortly after that, when I kind of learned like how bad I was getting hosed on commission and lead costs and stuff, I met some guys that were in the final expense insurance business. And final expense is, I mean, you're dealing with basically broke people, poor people, people on Social Security, very low income people. I've worked a lot of Section 8 neighborhoods, trailer parks and stuff. And these are people just, obviously, they don't make a lot of money, haven't made the best financial decisions in their life. And they're just looking for something so their kids aren't stuck with a burden like a cremation policy or funeral policy, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I sold final expense insurance face to face. In basically we have to. It's a heavy lead business, right? But you buy your leads. So I was spending like $1,200 a week on leads when I was running like hard full time, and we would travel too. Like, like, hey, we got 100 new leads in Colorado. Like, all right, we're going to Colorado. And we go out of town and rent a car, get an Airbnb, buy a bunch of leads.
Wow.
And you're like $3,500 in the hole before you even start working, And then it's just grind time. And then you just run leads for a week, 10 days, just trying to put up some business, And so I did that face to face and would travel a lot, go to different states, did that for a few years. Then a couple years ago, I met this guy named Brian. He's got one of the largest Medicare agencies in the country, and I started learning about Medicare. And Medicare it's just amazing. I love Medicare. It's crazy because you get paid to give people free stuff that they have to have. And unlike with life insurance, because it's the same kind of clientele, it's like where you're kind of have to pressure, when you spend $35 on a lead, like sometimes you have to pressure sell people, you know what I mean? And I'm not like big on that. I got to do what I got to do, but I mean, it's usually for their own good too, but it's more of a fight sometimes when you have to sell life insurance, and you got to kind of make them feel bad sometimes. But whereas, with Medicare, it's a $0 plan, so they don't have to pay for anything. And typically you're getting them like more dental or more, like a food card, or saving them $600 a year on their medications or whatever. You know what I mean? So you're literally putting money in their pocket. Like everybody I talk to and help, I'm actually genuinely helping them, and I'm putting money back in their pocket. I'm saving them money. It doesn't cost them any money, and I get paid a lot of money to do it. It's pretty awesome system. And then with the Medicare, you get renewals too. So come this time next year, I'll have a 6-figure income just in renewals of Medicare, like real mailbox money.
Yeah.
So I've been hitting the Medicare pretty hard the last couple of years. And
so these are like benefits rewarding that people aren't aware of within that, but they just aren't aware of them. So you're kind of like educating them on it, or how to use it.
Not necessarily. Like, let's say there's different, there's like different carrier, like in insurance we say carrier, but that carrier just means company.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with that term. But so you have like United Healthcare, Humana, Aetna, Cigna, Anthem. Those are like the big ones, and they're in most states. And maybe they have a United Healthcare plan, right?
Right.
But you find out what they want. What are they looking for? Maybe do they want a food card with more money? Maybe they want more dental because they only have $2,000, and maybe there's an Aetna plan that's got $3,000 in dental.
Okay, so you're like a broker.
So you just kind of find out what they have and what they're looking for, and then it's just a plan change most of the time. Maybe it's an internal. If they have Humana, maybe you change them to a different plan in Humana that's got more dental.
Okay.
Or maybe they want a food card, and Aetna's got more food card in their zip code, so you switch them from Humana to Aetna.
All right.
Something like that.
Makes sense. But it makes you feel better because you're actually doing something that's benefiting them.
Yeah, you're really helping people.
Yeah.
And they're more appreciative. and so it's like a feel good thing, but you're also making a lot of money doing it. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
there's some.
it's not really like a sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't cost any money. So you're not like selling people really anymore. You're just building trust and rapport, connecting, caring and connecting really is all it is.
Yeah.
It's not a sale.
That
Because
resonates.
there's no money involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just getting them to
On their
trust
end.
you.
Yeah.
Because if they've got burned before,
Right.
just getting them to trust you, care and connect, and, you know, help them. And yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a parallel there with my career. I started out my very first sales job, which I fell into, was selling wobbly boxes, mobile homes, and I was good at it. I sold a lot of mobile homes in the span of about a year and a half, but I did not like selling mobile homes. I found myself sitting across the table from people who I knew it. I really couldn't tell them because it's my job to sell them this thing, but they're making a terrible financial decision. And I'm literally asking them for their down payment. It's like, well, I've got this much. Well, that's not going to be enough. Well, how much do you need? Well, how much do you have in your account?
How much can you get?
I
Get
show me your
together.
bank statement, and then basically whatever's in there is what I'm telling you. You got to pay me in order to buy this mobile home.
Yeah.
And while, like I said, I mean, I enjoyed the commission checks. I enjoyed learning how to sell. I did not like what I was selling. And it was a high pressure sales environment. I mean, I was good at hitting the numbers, but if you didn't hit them, you got fired fairly quickly. So and then I found, I started looking for another job in sales. And that's kind of how I came across a recruiter who mentioned, babe, you ever thought about doing recruiting? And, what they were doing for me felt honorable. They were helping me figure out how to find a job, which was coming from where I came from. You swung hammers. That's basically what you did. There weren't a lot of corporate type of opportunities. And so I thought it was pretty honorable to help people find work. And that's how I got into staffing. And, I've been doing it almost 30 years now. And
Yeah.
I really think that what I do every day matters. I get to help companies find their number one resource, because I don't care what your product is. I don't care what your product, your service. I don't care about any of it. If you don't have the right people in the building delivering on whatever that value proposition is, it's worthless. You got to have people that are actually going to put it out and do a good job of taking care of it and servicing the customer. So I'm helping clients find that their most important resource every day. So I get to affect industry. I get to help companies. We have the ability to affect the employment market for an entire community, for an entire city. Right now we're running the state of Texas. So hopefully we can make some differences here. And then when it comes to the candidates, back when I started, they were making $7.25 an hour, but no one really pays that. No one pays minimum anyway. So whether they're interviewing for an $11 an hour job, or I'm helping someone find their CEO who's going to make, $600,000, 12 weeks of vacation or whatever, I'm helping people find work. I'm helping them find a good company to go be with. And I think that's something that I really get to feel like I do a service within the community. So it feels good to me as well. Now I do get paid well, and I am asking for money from the clients, but I do feel like for that money, I'm doing them a valuable service.
Yeah. I'd agree.
Yeah.
It does feel good especially like when you have testimonials from clients and both employees that are just like, thank you so much, especially on the employee side, right? When they come in and like bring you a cup of coffee or something because they're so appreciative of you finding them that job and then being able to put food on their family's tables and, live to see another day, like instead of like struggling and trying to find it. That always makes you feel good. It makes you feel like, yeah, I don't need that. Like, you don't have to give me anything for it. It's my job. But, just them being so appreciative and they end up, sometimes being promoted time over time and being the decision maker that, decides to use the agency that helped them find their first, career. So it's rewarding. It is very rewarding. And now what we do is, we do put people to work, but we also help coach, train other people to do that same thing, which is even more rewarding because it's great to see someone come from like what you were saying on the podcast that we listened to earlier. What was it called?
Call the damn leads.
Call the
Yeah,
damn
Call the
leads.
Damn Leads. Great podcast, by the way. Great story. But it was, you know, seeing someone that gets into the business and really just can't see the forest for the trees because they can't see that light at the end of the tunnel. They're just like grinding and hustling it out. And they're like, okay, when am I going to get the opportunity? When is that, you know, that shoe going to fall? And then finally something happening that you said was going to happen. And you're like, see, it works, right?
Isn't it funny that now I get more excited for my team, my BDM, for their wins than I ever did for any of mine.
I know.
Like so I'll tell you real quick. I've got a couple of really promising BDMs working for me right now, and one of them,
BDMs mean business development managers, by the
just
way,
in
for
case
those
folks
people don't really
don't know, talent solution experts.
Yes.
But anyways, and then you know, one of them I was, you know, I tell everyone who starts is, listen, for 90 days you're going to beat your head against the wall, and it's going to feel like you're getting absolutely nowhere. You're going to question every decision you made as far as this goes and getting into this job and doing what you're doing. But one day you're going to see that you're starting to get traction. And then you're going to see that eventually it starts to become, as long as you keep doing these activities, it's self-generating. Mm-hmm. And she came in one day and she was like, oh my God, I'm just not getting anywhere. I've made all these calls this week. And I said, I know. One day though, you're going to walk in somewhere and they're going to go, oh my God, I've been waiting for you my whole life. It's not going to happen a lot, but it's going to happen to you one day where you're just going to walk in and that prospect is going to say, I have been waiting on you. Please help me.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I can't wait for that to happen. Literally her very first drop, which is going out face-to-face cold calls, her very first one the next day, that happened. And when she came back in, seeing her energy, seeing how excited she was so pumped up. I was excited for her. Like I couldn't believe that kind of happened, because that never happens. It never happens that way. Mm-hmm. And I was telling her later, I was like, hey, look, you'll believe my bullshit for another month. That's a win for me. But yeah, no, I really love sales, and I love developing people and teaching them. And it's fun when you take someone who's like a little nervous about it and you can teach them the basic skill sets and concepts, and then you see them get it.
Yeah. And they become more confident over time.
And now
they're like
fire.
running the room, running circles around
now
everybody else.
The big shoulders show up.
The big shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
For sure. I have an agent on my team. Who's my buddy's girlfriend. She lives in Kentucky. And she was working at a Ford plant making like, I don't know, $28 an hour or something. But they'd have to work like 60, 70 hours a week some weeks. You know, they work like 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Like 60, 70 hours a week. And she just got through her second, because you have annual enrollment and open enrollment with Medicare. Annual enrollment's like our biggest time of year where you're writing the most business. I mean, you can write a lot of business in those 2 months. I mean, that's where we make a big bulk of policies, you know, put on the books. And then you still get upfront commission all year long, and then your renewals and stuff. But she made more money in 2 months of AEP last year, from October to December. She got more money deposited in January, because you get paid in January from those 2 months. She got more money in January from those 2 months of work, probably working 40, 45 hours a week, than she did working 10 months at the Ford plant the year before.
Wow.
And, you know, she's a broker, so she's 1099. She doesn't, I'm not her boss. Like, she works when she wants to work. Yeah. You know, you want to work. You don't want to do shit for a month, don't do shit for a month. Like, I can't tell you what to do. Right. I'm just your mentor. You know what I mean? Yeah, I want you to work all the time, because every time you sell, I make an override. But like, do what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's now making more money than she has ever made before, and she has more control of her time, and she gets to spend more time with her kids and stuff. So it's just awesome to be able to help her do that. You know what I mean?
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why people get into sales. You know, for me, when I realized I was able to decide how much I'm going to make today,
Yeah.
Right.
that was a big deal for me. Because when I grew up, it was you got paid this much money for this hour,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And no matter how well you did
So
in
many
that
hours
hour,
in the day, you know?
you're going to get that amount of money.
Yeah.
And then, you know, once I kind of caught the concept of, oh, wait a minute, every single time I do this, it's worth a certain amount of money. I just don't know how much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. And sometimes it's worth a lot.
Right.
Sometimes it's worth nothing. But sometimes it's worth
crazy.
a lot of money.
I remember like the first like biggest day I had selling life insurance, right? I made like I made like $5,300 in one day, and it was on a Sunday in Dallas in the hood. And actually I made like $3,200 in commission in one house in like 2 hours, because this whole
Wow.
family, and it was awesome because it was all like lay down sales too, you know. And I went in, the whole family had policies, and the lady's like, hey, we have this policy, we have this policy. And so I'm not going to like blast insurance companies' names on the podcast, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of insurance companies out there that target low income people
for sure.
and take advantage of their ignorance and just put them in a complete terrible product, overpriced, just horrible. I mean, there's so many better options, like a 2-year waiting period when they could get like a day one coverage for like half the price. But anyway, the whole family had policies like that, and I ended up getting them all. Like, I think most of them had like $10,000 policies. I ended up getting them like $20,000 in life insurance for like less than they were paying for 10.
Oh my
so like
gosh.
doubled all their coverage and saved them
Yeah.
a total of like $100 a month. And they freaking loved me. You know what I mean? Like feed me and
The
stuff. And I'm
man.
like, I just made $3,200. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is awesome. You know?
I remember my first commission check. I couldn't believe it. Like, I remember like when they handed it to me, I was like, is this a mistake?
Yeah.
I mean, I had done the math. I knew how much I was supposed to get, but I
That's-
could not believe it was real.
That was
Feels
back in the
it
night.
feels illegal.
Yeah.
does.
That was
And-
back in the 1920s when they actually
Yeah, in the
like,
19
wrote-
when they actually wrote
wrote
paper
checks.
checks. Thank you so much. It was on a stone tablet. I owe a bunch of grunts, and then, but no, I remember like going, I'm gonna put this in my account.
You know that, right?
You know this.
It's okay, right?
I'm gonna cash this, and it was like, you earned it, and I was okay. That's actually because my very first commission was over 10, and so I found out that day that when you deposit 10 grand,
They make you wait.
they make you wait.
Oh, yeah.
So from there on out, I was like, hey, can you make any commission check I get,
Cut it up in fives.
cut it up in fives for me, please? I'd appreciate that. And they sure did.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. There was something about the ability to decide.
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot because everybody's always looking for the magic bullet in sales. It's like, oh, the magic bullet. And I used to say there is no magic bullet, but now I do say there is one.
Yeah.
And it's you.
Hard work.
The thing that I would say that has set every single successful person apart in sales, every BDM that made it, every BDM that didn't make it, was effort. And that's you. That's all you, period. I've seen some incredibly untalented salespeople kick the shit out of some very talented salespeople because they outworked them. They were hungry. This meant something to them. It was life-changing. They felt like they were doing something they were doing something bigger than what they were doing in that moment.
Yeah.
And you can't, it's hard to teach that effort, right? You can show I can show people all right, sorry, I'm going to tell a real quick sales story. This I think is the best thing that ever happened to me is at that company, they took us all to a seminar. And at that seminar, it was the very first seminar I've ever been to, right? Very first seminar I've ever been to. So they take me to the seminar, and there's a guy on stage, and he's laying out how he does his job. And he was the best one in our category. Like some untold millions of dollars this guy had sold. And we all competed with him. And yet he got up there and told us exactly how he did his job. And then he asked us at the end, I'll make this short. He asked us at the end, he said, I bet you wonder why I would get up here in front of 300 competitors and tell you how I do my job. And it's because 99.9% of you don't have it in you. You don't have the ability to work the way I work. And the 0.1% that does, I welcome the challenge. And I'll never forget that as long as I live, because it basically told me that this guy's magic bullet was his effort.
Yeah.
Well, I can do effort. I don't need a PhD for that. I don't need all this education. I can work. That's one thing I definitely can do. So it was the biggest thing. But I didn't know what I was doing, but I did a lot of it until I figured it out.
Eventually it paid off, and then you figured out what you were doing.
That's right. That's right.
I know.
So, what about you? What would when you look at, like, because obviously you've been successful in sales, what would you say it is?
Effort's a big part of it. You know, I trained a lot of life insurance agents that I was trying to recruit and get on my team, and a lot of it I think is people are just mentally weak as a whole. I think we talked a little bit about that.
You did.
And especially coming from the worst people, I think, to go to straight commission sales, like a job like that, are people that had a decent job before, right? If they made anywhere between 60 and 80K a year before the job, they can't suffer long enough to get through the learning curve. You know what I mean? Like, luckily for me, I came from fighting and teaching fitness and martial arts, right? You don't make a whole lot of money teaching fitness and martial arts unless you're doing it online or have a big social media following,
Right.
which I didn't have because, stupidly, I neglected social media kind of on my come up. Fighting, I should have went hard on social media, but anyway. So I was like, I couldn't go get a job even making $20 an hour at the time. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I could make decent money teaching fitness, but you have to build you know what I mean? You have to build a clientele. And so when I build my clientele and then I got a decent amount of privates, I fucking get hurt and have a surgery. Now I'm on the shelf, and then everybody leaves me, and then they go get a different trainer. And then it's like, you're constantly rebuilding from scratch every time you get injured or have a surgery. And so I didn't have another option, you know, and I was terrible. And I had 2 vehicles at the time, and I sold one of my vehicles just to get money to buy leads. And I bought like $5,000 worth of leads, and I was getting my head chopped off, like not making any money, just going through the learning curve, getting killed. And so, but I just refused to quit because I knew the money was real, and I seen the guys that I was working with making sales and making money. I knew these guys were making real multiple 6-figure money. And I just refused to accept I wasn't good enough to do it. I was like, I can do this. I was like, this fucking guy can do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
You know? And I just refused to quit. But most people won't work, you know? Like, I had agents that, like, because I remember my mentor, Josh, he hired this guy, and he recruited this guy rather, and had him running leads like somewhere in northern Florida. Because I was living in Fort Lauderdale at the time. It was up in like, I can't remember the name of the town. It's Crystal River or something up there, northwest Florida or something. He's like, yeah, I bought, you know, this guy, I bought him $3,000 worth of leads to get him started. And he said he worked them. He wrote like one app, and he was like, do you want these leads? He's like, I got a bunch of leads. I just want my money back. I'll give them to you like half off or whatever. I'll take a hit and I'll make my money on the override. And I was like, yeah, I was like, how many leads you got? He said, I got 75 leads. I was like, I'll go run them right now. So I got in my car, drove 4 hours up to northern Florida, got an Airbnb, stayed up there for 10 days and made like $7,000. And so, you know, that was an example. Josh is like, I know that guy didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, he just didn't work the leads hard enough. You know what I mean? It's like, people don't realize, especially in a business like that, like, if you're closing 2 or 3 out of 10, that's like high level. That's like elite salespeople staff. You're closing 2 or 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
You know, so if you got to get, I mean, think of it like this. Like, I look at it like this. Like, I've worked, like, right, we've done manual labor shit, like hard jobs, you know? And I'm like, the worst that's going to happen, yeah, maybe I get a gun pulled on me. Are they gonna shoot me? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I got a gun
Get
pulled on me.
handcuffed.
You're gonna, yeah, I got handcuffed once. You can tell that story too if you want. I mean, whatever. What are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna? Are you gonna attack me? No.
Right.
Even if you do, are you gonna beat me up? No. Are you gonna tell me no? Are you gonna cuss me out? Are you gonna hurt my feelings? Like,
Right.
no. I'm like, who the fuck are you? You know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? There's not like, so if I have to go to, let's just say I knock 15 doors in a day or 20 doors and half of them answer and everybody tells me to fuck off and everybody's telling me to fuck off all day long.
Yeah.
And then I get to the last house and then I get in and I sit down and I make a sale and I make $2,000 and I worked 8 hours that day.
Right.
And got beat up all day, but I made $2,000 at the end of the day. Do you think I really give a shit about all those people before
Right.
that told me no all day?
No.
I'm not even thinking
Nope.
about it. I'm thinking about, okay, I worked 8 hours today. I made $2,000.
Right.
That's all I'm thinking about.
Exactly.
And so I try to program that mindset into people.
You can't though.
And some people, they can't handle it. They can't take it. I'm like,
I feel like people that, number one, this is the hardest job they've ever done. They've never been told their whole lives, and they've just been handed things their whole life.
yeah,
Sales isn't for them. Entitlement, right? It's
Yeah.
the rejection. The rejection is something that a lot of people mentally can't handle. And so hearing no 20, 30 times a day
right.
can really wear on you if you're just like not mentally, like you said, not mentally strong to handle that. But hearing no to me is like, all right, I'm going to like get you to say yes. Like that's just
Yeah.
like a challenge to me.
Yeah, I think every no, I'm that much closer to a yes.
That's right.
Exactly.
Or I just make it into like a comedy thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just like, I'll start making jokes with people when they tell me no, or like people cuss me out. I just start laughing. I'm like, why are you so angry?
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you so hostile? I'm like, you mean come in? I'm like,
Right.
let me take my shoes off.
Right.
You know what I mean? I could joke. And like, I've literally gotten in houses like that. Like, people
Yeah.
like tell me no, whatever at the door, like cussing at me. And I'm just like, why are you so angry? You want to talk about it? You want me to come in and take my shoes off? Let's talk
sit down
about
and
it.
talk
Let's
about
talk
it.
about it. I won't tell.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And like, you'll break people like that
Yes.
sometimes. And they'll just like, you might even get them to laugh or they're just whatever. But I just make a joke out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't take it personal.
You can't.
You can't.
It's funny that you mentioned
Unless you
that.
get handcuffed.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna have you tell that story in a second, but I hear that all the time. Right, your salespeople come in and they're taking it so personally, and I've got a thing I always say because they're it felt so personal. Is it personal? And well, it felt personal. Well, okay. Do y'all hang out on the weekends? Does this person know your kids' names?
Right.
Bro, I don't care.
It's not.
I do
It's
not
not
care.
personal. This person doesn't
Yeah.
know you. Don't
They don't
take
know
it
me.
personally.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I tell reps that all the time. It's
Yeah.
not personal. You have no idea what that person's going through.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had people call my mother names.
Yeah.
I don't care. I went back 3 months later and sold them.
Yeah.
They didn't know. They didn't even remember me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah. So tell the story about. So that's actually because I've got some pretty crazy sales stories, and we come from a wild and woolly sales environment, but I haven't heard of someone getting handcuffed on a sales call. So
Yeah.
that's a new one for me.
Yeah. So I was in Birmingham, Alabama.
Which, by the way, if you don't know, one of the worst crime rates in all of the country is in Birmingham, Alabama.
I did not know that.
It is horrific there. Yeah.
Well, that might explain this. Yeah, don't ever get in trouble in Alabama because when I get to that part in the story, the police there, they won't do anything. It's kind of crazy. But so I was living in Florida at the time, and this was when I first, this was before I got into final expense and was dealing with like a lot of low income. Like I've worked every hood in Dallas. You know what I mean? Like if you guys know anything about South Dallas or Oak Cliff, 75216, that's where the money's at.
We're learning.
Okay.
75216, 75217. that zip code, that's where the money's at. But
That's what,
that's where the money's
Yeah.
at. Medicare and life
You
insurance.
Let me
smell-
put that. Let me put that in my phone real
Just
quick.
smell green when you roll through.
75216.
Yeah, it's
I used to say that about chicken plants real quick. Whenever we would put people in chicken plants, and I'd be bringing BDMs up to them, and as you walk up, they're like, "God, it
They smell terrible."
stinks." And I would always go, "Smells like money to me."
yeah, it'd be those are the neighborhoods where you knock on the door and I'm like, "Is Miss Marilyn here?" And the girl like, "Hold on." And then next thing you hear in the house, "Grandma, there's a white boy at the door." I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yep.
But
It's always
Get
a good
ready.
start. It's always a good start. It's always a good start.
but they love me, you know.
Yeah.
I just kill them with kindness. But so Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, I was living in South Florida at the time. So this was actually before I started filing expenses. It was actually a mortgage protection. And I go to Birmingham, Alabama to run leads. And so when you get the lead, it'll say like who they have their mortgage with. It'll say, you know, $220,000 mortgage with Chase Bank or whoever.
Yeah.
So I'm calling and booking appointments. In my phone script, I'm like, "Hey, this is Matt with the Mortgage Protection Center. I'm getting back to you about the $220,000 loan you have with Chase Bank. Your address is 123 Main Street, blah, blah, blah." Like, yeah. I'm like, all right. I'm the field underwriter that's been assigned to go over it with you. And, you know, I'm going to be in your area tomorrow. Does 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock work better for you? You know, so they pick a time. So this guy assumed that I worked for the bank,
Right.
you know, because I don't know why he assumed that. I guess because I said, "Call him with your mortgage with Chase Bank." So he assumes I work for the bank. And I guess he was skeptical. So when I get off the phone, he calls the bank and they're like, he's like, "Yeah, you're sending Matt Van Buren over here." And they're like, "We don't know who that is." So he thinks I'm trying to scam him right out the gate. Right. So I go to his house. It's a not the best neighborhood. I'm a minority in this neighborhood. You know, there's two older black guys, and we're in Birmingham, Alabama. You know, tends to be some racism in the South on both sides, right? So, I'm just not even really thinking about any of this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm here to make money.
That's
you know?
right.
So I'm knocking on the door. The guy, he seems super cool. He's like, "Yeah, come on in," you know? And so we're sitting down. I'm sitting at the kitchen table. He's sitting to the left of me, and his brother's sitting across the table from me. And like his brother doesn't say a word the entire time. I'm just like,
No ill vibes, though. You didn't get any like mad dogging vibes.
No,
None of that.
not really. He didn't. No, nah. Neither one of them did really. I thought everything was cool.
So it felt good up to this point.
Yeah, everything felt cool. Even when I sat down, everything felt cool. Didn't feel like anything out of the normal. And I'm talking to the guy, and I'm like trying to build rapport with him. You know what I mean? I'm trying to feel him out, like see how. I'm just trying to see where his energy's at, you know? So I'm just going through, talking to him, building rapport, whatever. And within like probably 30 seconds of me talking, he just like cuts me off. And he's just like, "Hold on." He's like, "I don't even know who you are," you know? And I'm like, "I get it." And I'm like, so I pull out my license. I had my license with the state of Alabama printed out, got my ID on there and, you know, my license number and everything. So I'm like, "Here's my license with the state of Alabama." I was like, "Here's my ID." I was like, "I live in Florida, but I'm one of the only agents that we have in the company that's licensed in Alabama. So they sent me up here to help catch up because we're backed up with leads and all this." And so he's like, "Okay," you know, and I don't really remember what he said after that, but basically I'm trying to go through the presentation and he's just like not trusting me, right? And all of a sudden, like this dude sits back in the chair and like pulls out a pistol, like some like shady ass like looking revolver, you know what I mean? And he's like pointing
Just
the
filed
pistol.
down on the end.
Yeah, I'm
and
like,
shit.
"Oh shit." So he's just like, he's pointing this pistol at me. He's like, "Yeah, you trying to fucking scam me, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Dude, I'm not trying to scam you." I was like, "I'm a licensed insurance agent. Like, there's my license." I was like, "You filled out this form." And I was like, "My job is to go over it with you." And then he's like, oh, I called the bank and you don't work for the bank and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I never told you I work for the bank. I said, I work at the Mortgage Protection Center. They're in between you and the bank and the mortgage lender. I was like, the bank can't give you a mortgage and then legally turn around and sell you a policy to
They're not
protect
the
that
government.
mortgage. I'm like, that's like a conflict of interest. I was like, I'm a broker. I said, I work for all these major insurance companies like Mutual of Omaha and Foresters and Prosperity and you know, Columbian Financial Group and all this stuff. And so, you know, he's like, nah. And then, so he pulls out a set of handcuffs and he's like, you need to put these on. He's like, these are going to keep you from getting hurt. And me, like his brother's like, I'm pretty sure his brother was pointing a gun at me underneath the table. I just had like this vibe, like now, like thinking back that that's why he was there in case I tried to do something.
Yeah.
I think his brother was probably like pointing a gun at me underneath the table. He said this, like I had my gun on me, but I couldn't. It was
You're not gonna
like,
get to it.
Yeah, it wasn't even crossing my mind to like. I was like, "There's no way. This is not." You know what I mean? Maybe even if it was just him, I don't think there's any way I would have done it. Could have done it. That would have been smart. But
Yeah.
so anyway, he's like, "You need to put these handcuffs on." He's like, "These are gonna keep you from getting hurt." And I'm like, "I'm not putting the handcuffs on." And he's like, "Put the fucking handcuffs on." And I stopped for a second and I'm like, I guess I'm going to put the handcuffs on. I mean, what am I going to do? You know? And I'm like, if this is how it's going to be, it's how it's going to be, you know? So
there's no real defense for bang bang karate.
So I'm like, I put the handcuffs on, right? And I'm sitting there like handcuffed at this dude's table with my hands on the table, handcuffed. And he's like starting to talk shit. And he's like, yeah, you're lucky I had my brother here because we were going to do it my way and blah, blah, blah. I was going to let my dogs get you. And he's got like 2 big ass mean pit bulls like barking and jumping on the glass at the back door. And I'm just,
Who is this guy?
I don't know, bro. He's,
Holy shit.
he's pretty,
Whose thought is that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy's trying to scam me on my mortgage. I'm going to stick the pit bulls on him.
Yeah,
Right.
he was out there.
It's
Been
Birmingham.
fighters.
He's out there. Yeah.
Birmingham.
Yeah. Birmingham, I guess. First and last time I've been there.
If
I
good
do not
reason.
blame you.
You don't go to Diddy.
Huntsville was a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
I got a whole different vibe in Huntsville.
You don't go to Diddy
Huntsville are
parties
cool.
twice.
Huntsville's cool.
I got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, people are so nice there.
Yeah.
Huntsville, yeah.
It's different.
Actually, everybody was nice in Birmingham too.
Yeah.
Aside from him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody else was super nice. You know.
So
How did you get out of the
how
handcuffs?
did this end?
Yeah. So, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna do it my way." Blah blah blah. We're gonna do it my brother's way. We're not gonna do it my way. He's like, "You're going to jail," and I'm like, "Oh." He's like, "I'm calling the cops." I'm like, "Thank God, call the cops." Right? And
Yes,
Some real
please.
people.
I'm like, "Oh man, I'm going to jail." You know, trying to play it.
Oh, damn.
So he's like,
Oh man.
he calls the cops, right? And then like 10 minutes goes by. They're not there yet. He's still like talking shit and just like kind of saying different stuff. And I'm like, oh man. And he's like, you know what? He's like, here, you take the phone. You call him. He's like, you're white. They'll come faster if you call them. I was like, oh,
They can
God.
hear it over the phone.
I was like, give me the phone.
They can hear the whiteness.
I was like, give me the phone. I was like, yeah, this is Matt Van Buren. I'm
I
over
knew
here
it.
at 123
Hi.
Main Street. I'm
Hi.
like, we have a situation here. Like, you guys need to come over here ASAP.
These
right?
guys are messing with me right now.
Talking all
Any-
proper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hands at 10 and 2 while you're talking.
Yeah. So when they come over there, right when they pull up, he takes the handcuffs off me, and then like as they knock on the door, he like slips the gun back in his pocket. Right, lets him in. And the cops come in there and they're like, all right, what's going on? He's like, oh, this guy's trying to scam me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, I'm a licensed insurance agent. I was like, here's my license. Here's the lead this guy filled out. I was like, I'm trying to go over the information with him. He thinks I'm trying to scam him. So the cop's looking at my license. He's looking at the lead that the guy filled out. And he's like, well, it looks like he's trying to sell you the insurance you requested. So if you didn't want it, why didn't you just ask him to leave? And I'm like, thank you.
Thank you.
Now this guy's like, no, I got a better idea. I'm gonna pull a gun on him.
Yeah.
And handcuff them.
Yeah.
Threatened to let my pit bulls attack him.
So you didn't tell the cops that you had a gun pulled and put in handcuffs?
No, so at the time I didn't. So as
He's probably having to be getting out.
yeah, I was like still in
He's
shock. I
like-
don't know, but so when we get out in the driveway, right? We go out in the driveway. I tell the cop, I said, "Look, I didn't want to say nothing in front of these guys, but I said this dude just handcuffed me at his table and like held me at gunpoint against my will. You know, like had me handcuffed the whole time, pointing a gun at me, talking shit. And so, dude, the cops didn't even go in there and they didn't even go back and knock on the door and ask him. They didn't do anything. They didn't even take a report. So I'm pissed, right? So I drive down to Birmingham Police Department and I start talking to like one of the internal affairs officers, you know? I was like, this is my first time here. I was like, dude, this isn't right. You know what I mean? I was like, my brother's a cop. I know, like, this is not legal. This is like felony kidnapping, you know?
Yeah.
And so they made like a real big deal about it, you know, like, oh, we're going to look into it, blah, blah, blah. They sent a cop over to my Airbnb later that night to take a statement, like a full statement, everything that happened. And so then I leave Florida. I leave to go back to Florida like 3 days later. And then I call to check. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Did you question this guy? Whatever. And they're like, yeah, you don't have a case. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't have a case? And they're like, yeah, you don't have a case. And like, it's just he said, she said. And I'm like, wow. It's like, that's how y'all get down in Alabama, huh? I was like,
Wow.
yeah, that was it. So they just like, they acted like it was a big deal when I went down there and we're all concerned. And then as soon as I left back out of town, they were just like, they just blew me off.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, for real. So don't fuck around in Alabama.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like the wild, wild west. It's crazy.
I
Worse
always
in Texas, huh?
I always think about like the planning, you know, like in the interim between his phone call and when he gets to the door, like those two guys planning.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know what we're gonna do when he gets here.
Right.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's like who
I wonder if they work for the Dixie Mafia.
they must have, dude. Like where do these leads come from? Who had it out for you?
Man, they filled it out and mailed it in.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've never quite had got handcuffed on a sales call.
No.
That was the first. I had an older lady in a, you know, you guys know where Parker County is, like Weatherford.
No, not
so
yet.
it's like
West side of Dallas.
yeah,
West side.
Like far
well,
west.
what like west?
Other than Fort Worth, even.
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay.
It's like west of Fort Worth.
Okay.
We'll go riding out there. It's nice riding out there, mineral wells and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had like it's like west of Fort Worth, this little town. I've had like an old lady like pull a gun on me at the door, but you could tell it was like it wasn't like point the gun at you type of pull. She was just like, I don't know who you are, but I got a gun. I'm like,
Right.
Miss Mary, I'm the insurance man.
She's ready.
Don't worry.
You serving papers?
Oh, she's
My
like,
daddy
"Okay,
said I'm to
well."
shoot anyone serving papers.
You know, next thing you know, after 10 minutes, I'm in the house talking with her, you know, but I mean, I've had situations like that happen, but no,
Yeah.
not to this level. No.
That's crazy.
I've had more of my crazy situations have been on the other side of like dealing with the candidates. Like I've had to testify in a murder trial due to my job because somebody that worked for me killed someone and was using work as an alibi, and I had to go disprove that they were at work that day, which is never fun.
Wow.
When there's a literal murderer sitting, 20 yards from you, and they're like,
Kind of a
"Can you
shock.
point him out in the room?" I was like, "Do I have
Yeah.
to?"
And they know where you work and they
This
know what
guy's
you
been
drive.
I've interviewed this guy knows where all of us is, right?
Yeah.
That one. And then one of the ones that I thought I was in trouble one day is this place, huge guy. And I don't know why I didn't do it this day. I had a very specific way of walking people off of this property, right? It was a low paying job, so didn't always attract the best folks that were doing the job. And I had to release this one guy, but he was a sweet guy. He's big. Like he's a very big guy, but he was always so nice when I'd go talk to him or whatever, and had to go release.
Just think John Coffey,
Yeah, that kind of size, like huge.
Green Mile.
And so I go in, and the process is you talk to them and you walk them slowly out the door, and then by the time they realize they're out the gate, you're out the gate, right? And now you end their assignment, and then you tell them to go to the office to pick up their stuff. Well, there's a magnetic fence that has a magnetic lock on it. The guard jack's here, fence gate's here, the other side of the fence is here. So it's like a little cubby. And the way that I always do it is they'd open the fence, the guy would go through, and I'd let the fence close behind him. But for some reason, this time, I walked through the fence with him. And he is processing that he just got released, right? And then he turns around to say something to me, and I said, well, we're more than happy to help you find another job. I had my hands in my pockets, right? Just not thinking. And this guy, when I tell you he flipped, like his personality went to just a whole new level. He literally lunged for me and was like, as he was lunging for me, he said, I'm going to beat your fucking skull in. And I'm like, oh shit, like trying to get my hands out of my pockets. Don't let me get knocked the fuck out with my hands in my pockets.
Don't ever let them get too close to you.
But as he
Don't
got
put
to
your
me,
hands in your pockets.
as he got to me, all I did was basically just brought him in real close so he couldn't swing. And the security was coming around at the time.
Yeah.
But
Oh, wow.
I thought, because I thought I was in trouble. Because this dude was huge. I had no idea if I could even get to his neck, type of thing. You know what I mean?
Just knee him in the balls, man.
Yeah. But
You always go for the balls. Don't
I-
waste time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know, but I've seen dudes do a lot of damage in that 20 seconds between the knee and when they
Oh,
get
you know
the,
what I used to do? So like, even now, for whatever reason, I'm like the guy. The big people want to pick on the big guy. We went to a country concert like a couple months ago, and this like crackhead Alan Jackson looking dude smoking a cigarette with like this big dip was like trying to fight me at the concert. And I'm like, bro, I'm not the one. Trust me.
Right.
But like when I was coming up in Virginia, like I would go out like early in my pro career, like people would try to fight me and shit. And so I got this. You ever heard of OC spray? It's like military grade pepper spray.
Okay.
Real.
I think so, yeah.
It's pretty hardcore shit. I mean, it'll
Blind you.
make the biggest guy and a little bitch in
baby.
about 2 seconds. Yeah. So I remember I used to carry it with me, because when you're a pro fighter, even if the last thing you want to do is get in a street altercation, even if it's self defense,
Yeah.
it's not going to look good when you go to court because they're going to be like, this guy's a fighter. That's his mentality. And
There's no reason for anyone
you
to
need
ever
have
fight on the street.
Yeah, you need to have a lot of witnesses. It's just not a good
So,
look, even if it's
opposite of-
self defense.
Opposite of Conor McGregor style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I got lawyer fees like that either,
True,
I'm
true.
not gonna think that deep, But so anyway, like I was at the bar one time and I was probably like 25 years old and this guy's like talking shit like he's gonna do something. I was like, oh yeah. So I pull out the fucking OC spray, dude just blasted this dude like in the bar in front of everybody. He's like on the ground just screaming and crying like a little bitch.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And then the cops come and they're like, what happened? I was like, look, dude, I'm a professional fighter. This guy was drunk. He came at me. I thought he was going to hit me, so I sprayed him. And the cop just started laughing. And he like looks at the guy and he's just like, guy's on the ground like crying, rolling around. And he's like, just get out of here, man. I'm like, all right, cool.
Well, like I said, there's no reason for anyone to ever fight on the street. No one ever wins. It's
Yeah.
always dangerous. You never know what you're getting into. You never
Right.
know what they have, gun, knife, whatever.
Yep.
But I will say there's some of my favorite videos ever. When someone decides to pick on the wrong person and they don't know it, but you can kind of see it coming that this guy stands a little different. Oh, look at those cauliflower ears, and this guy is running his mouth at him.
Yeah.
I always like that first initial look on their face. The whole, oh, I just got hit by someone who knows how to hit. And this is probably the first time I've been hit like
Yeah.
that in my life.
Yeah.
There's one, I think it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite videos. I talk about it all the time. But there's these two, I think it's Oklahoma football players. They're in a bathroom. And when the video starts, you can tell they've already hit this guy. Like this one guy is already bleeding from his nose, right? But this guy, his ears are pretty jacked up. And there's another guy right beside him whose ears are pretty jacked up. And they're really calm. his nose is leaking, but he's super calm. So I'm here for it. Like, I'm ready for this video, right? So this Oklahoma, I think he was a starting quarterback or something for the Oklahoma Sooners. Anyways, he's just running his mouth at him, pushes him. And so the guy kind of looks at the other one and goes, which one do you want? And he goes, I'll take that one. This dude, most gangster shit ever, wipes the blood from his face, wipes it on the quarterback's face, and then clocks him with the other hand. And then you just see him double leg him, takes him down, just beating shit him on the ground. The other guy's fighting off camera. And then you see that guy getting suplexed in the frame. And it's like, yeah. There's different types of humans out here. You probably should, I get it. You're a football player.
Yeah.
And you've probably ran a lot of people over. These dudes were much smaller than them too.
Right.
But you fucked with a real one. And that look on their face when they realize they're getting worked is just...
You guys want to hear the citizen's arrest story real quick?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll do this one and then we'll end on this one. All right, here we go.
This is just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, this is a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So me and my buddy were riding Harleys out in Paris, Texas. And we just left this little, like, if you guys haven't been out there yet probably, but we'll go out there. It's good riding, but it's a little small rural town, middle of nowhere. So we're leaving this little mom and pop diner, and this guy's like running through the parking lot, just sprinting. And then there's I couldn't remember if he was a retired state cop or off duty. It was one or the other. But he's chasing him. This guy's running through the parking lot, and the cop's chasing him. He's like, "State police, I'm going to pull my gun, blah, blah, blah," right? So this guy, like the cop, he's the older guy, like kind of fat, out of shape. He's like real slow. He's like, he's not catching this guy. Like I could clearly already see how this unfolded. I was like, he's not catching.
That's always my question. Who's that guy running down?
I was like, he's not catching this dude. Not a chance. All right, we're standing by our bikes, and so he's like, "State police, I'm going to pull my gun." So he pulls his gun out. The guy just keeps running, like runs across the road, and this guy's like stopping, like trying to reholster his gun. I was like, he ain't fucking catching this guy. So I start sprinting across the road, right? Like full on sprint. Like this guy, he goes, there's an auto zone across the street. So he runs across the street to the auto zone. He starts going around the right side of the building, and I'm catching this dude like 0.2 seconds, right? So I'm right on him. And the guy runs to the right side of the auto zone. He trips and falls. And he gets up and he sees me, right? And then like as I'm coming around the corner of the auto zone, he stands up and starts running again. Dude, I fucking Goldberg speared his ass, like just boom, speared him right. And I had him like, he was like face down. I had my left arm around his neck and like a rear naked choke, and like around his back, I like grab his wrist, like a wrestling technique where you like control the wrist. So I'm like, I got him by the neck, and then I'm holding him by the wrist, and I'm like on top of him, just hold. He's like, he looks back, he's like, "You're not a cop." I was like, "Citizen's arrest, motherfucker." And then next thing you know, and I got my gun hanging out and stuff, like my shirt's all up, my gun's hanging out and stuff, and then like
the movie.
Yeah, and then like the cop comes running around the corner, and he's like, "Thanks, man. I'll take
Oh my God.
Take it from here. Are you sure?
Yeah,
I'll take it from here.
Then he, then
I got it.
him or whatever. So I go back across the street, and all like the little old ladies at the mom and pop diner and stuff, they're like, "What happened?" Blah blah blah. It's like I tackled him and got him handcuffed, and they're like, "Oh," they were all like, I was like the hero of Paris, Texas. Dude, it's so funny.
They have your face up now on a billboard somewhere.
The hero of Paris, Texas.
Oh, that's classic.
Anytime I get a chance to like put my hands on somebody in public and kind of rough them up and do the right thing at the same time, it's like a double win, you know?
Yeah, that's always
wow.
good. I got it
from here.
I got it from here.
I was
Oh,
like,
do you?
this is easy money.
Yeah, do you got it from here?
Yeah. Supposedly, like they said, the cop said he robbed the ammo store next door. So like he was in there, like stole a bunch of ammo and fucking ran out of the store. Yeah.
I just get it.
And I can't stand a damn thief.
No.
Yeah, I don't like that
Can't
shit.
stand a damn
I wonder what he
thief.
was going to do with that ammo, but
Well,
you got him though.
Probably put it in a gun.
yeah, he was he wasn't that big of a dude. I know him 6'5", 245 pounds, depending on the day. I'm kind of a big ninja, but I mean, like, you know,
He's like, get this train off me.
yeah, he wasn't that big of a dude, and he as soon as I grabbed his arm, he just felt completely helpless. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's got nothing.
I imagine the cop like standing on him with his foot. I got this. And he's like back at the office telling the story. He's like, I ran this asshole down. He thought he's gonna get away from me. I'm faster than I look. I'm just gonna throw it out there. He couldn't catch me. And there wasn't a big 6'5" former UFC fighter that helped me subdue this dude. I got him on my own.
I wish I would have had the spear on video though.
I bet.
It was Goldberg style, you know.
Yeah, I
it was
bet.
fucking nice. Yeah.
Bet.
Well, listen, Matt.
That's awesome.
I'm looking forward to riding with you, man. It's nice to meet you. Really enjoyed the conversation tonight. Before I let Z roll this out, throw all your stuff out there. Your companies where people can find your companies. You got the watch company. You also do the life insurance, right? Medicare.
Yep.
And then just all your other social media so people can catch up with you.
Yeah, but most of you probably aren't in the Medicare age, and I got that pretty set up. So, but yeah, I do have a luxury watch business. So I've got the connect on any kind of watch, Breitling, Omega, Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek, whatever you want, I can get it. So you can follow me on Instagram at MVB Luxury on Instagram. Also MattVB757 on Instagram. You can connect with me on Facebook, Matt Van Buren, and my website is mvbluxury.phonesites.com, mvbluxury.phonesites.com.
Awesome.
Nice. See, he definitely knows sales.
Yeah.
See how he repeated that? All right. And then where are you teaching at?
And I teach martial arts at Campazano MMA in Frisco, Texas on Sundays. Usually a closed mat, private pro practice, but, open for spectators or any tough guys out there that think you're tough. You want to come sign a waiver on Sunday, come get some.
I'm there. Let's do it.
Show up. And
Let's go. No, I'm not trying to be on a Gracie video. That ain't happening.
You're going to be like the guy he took
Yeah.
down.
Do you remember those old Gracie videos of just these dudes who had no idea and they just walk in there and the Gracies just mollywop them all over the place? Anyways, all right, we won't get into that.
Yes.
All right, Matt, thank you so much, man. Truly enjoyed it. Jake, you did a phenomenal job.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Jake.
Appreciate you, brother.
Creating words here. I like it.
Hey, man, that's what I do. That's why I got a couple of $10 words. All right, Z, you take us out?
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining, you guys. And thanks, Matt, for coming on and Jake for producing. And make sure you like and subscribe on Chuck and Z on YouTube. And see you next week.
Shiny side up. Peace out.